Hello, so we're on episode 3 already of Inspirational Conversations. My name is Amantha King. I'm the founder of Amantha King Coaching, and I am really excited to be speaking to my guest today all the way. Where are you at the moment, Andrew? You're in the UK,
Suffolk.
Aren't you? In Suffolk.
Suffolk, yeah.
But normally you're in Portugal, aren't you?
Yes, that's where I live now, yes.
Yeah,
currently reside in Portugal.
So let me formally introduce you to my wonderful connection, Andrew Liddell. Andrew and I have known each other for some time, and Andrew is just one of the most fascinating people I've ever met because he is modest beyond belief. So I'm going to big him up because he absolutely would not do that himself. So let me introduce you to Andrew Liddell, who formerly played for Wigan Athletic. I'm reading my notes here because he told me offline that he was a centre forward, right midfield. He still holds the title, can you believe, for you football fans out there, of being the highest goal scorer for Wigan Athletic. 150 goals, which is phenomenal. And you've held that title for the last 16 or 17 years, which is amazing, Andrew. You were also part of the dream team that got Barnsley to be promoted in 1997. You've had a career in coaching at Rotherham United and Ipswich. You were there for 6 years before you then went on to coach internationally with the Republic of Ireland. So what a career. And I know a lot of sporting fans will resonate with, what it takes to be able to have a career that pivots, turns, has agility in it, that made you stay in football for this length of time. So let's get into a conversation with you, Andrew, to find out, where did it all start? So tell us a little bit about your background, where you started. How does someone like you get into football?
Well, thanks for that introduction, Amantha. But one slight technicality, because you'll get somebody saying, "Oh, he didn't do that. I didn't score 150 goals for Wigan. I scored 150 goals in all my clubs, but I scored 70 goals for Wigan." But somebody will say, he didn't do that.
Someone will say that. And can we also just say, if anyone's looking on Wikipedia, we've fact-checked that Wikipedia is not correct, is it, Andrew?
No, Wikipedia is by people that don't strictly know the truth, so they just put what they want to put on there.
I stand corrected. So 150 goals in total.
In total, yeah.
But you still hold that record, don't you? So tell us, how's your life panned out like that so far then?
Well, since my father was a professional footballer, Gary, and so it was probably in the genes a little bit, but then just having a ball with me constantly since I was the age of 3, probably, and then getting to an age, you go to school and you kind of think, oh, I'm quite good, and people tell you you're good, and people are commenting, "Oh, you're a good player," and blah blah blah. But it never really. It's different from nowadays. People pick you up in academies. They pick kids up. They see them at the age of 6 and 7, and they coach them, and they coach the life out of them, if I'm quite honest. But that's my opinion on it. And they go to academies. I didn't take that route. They weren't. There were sort of coaching schemes like that, but not an academy. But I played street football with my friends, football for school, football for teams until I was 16. And then at 16, sort of 17, a friend of mine went off to play for a team in Barnsley, under 18s or under 17s, I can't quite remember. And I played in the same team as him in a boys' club, and I thought, oh, he plays for Barnsley. He's not as good as I am. I'm much better than him. Maybe I should do something about this. Spoke to my father, and he said, well, the way to ask for trials is to write letters. So I wrote handwritten letters to all the Football League clubs, which is 92, asking for a trial, telling them my name, where I lived, blah, blah, blah. And I got 2 replies, one from Huddersfield and one from Barnsley. And Barnsley invited me for the trial when I was 16. Got there, trained with them. After 2 days, the Barnsley youth team coach turned up at my house in Leeds. And I wasn't in. I was out playing football somewhere. But he spoke with my father and said, we'd like to sign Andy. We've seen enough of him after 2 days. So then I had a decision to make. Did I go to Huddersfield or did I sign to Barnsley? But when somebody takes the effort to drive to your house to say, we want to sign you, Huddersfield was never going to happen. So I signed for Barnsley on what was then, which sounds so antiquated now, a YTS scheme of £27.50 a week. And that was me. I was on my way.
Wow. I mean, as you know the work I do. I'm really passionate about uncovering people's strengths. So for the young people watching this, or for people who aspire or love football, what are the strengths that it takes to be that kind of young boy? I mean, because we're not talking in a technological age. You and I are of a certain age.
No.
It would have been pen and paper. To sit
Yeah.
down and write that. Describe to me some of what you see now retrospectively were those values or those strengths that you had back then, and still have, by the way.
Well, I think that the inner belief that I was very good at something, that I could succeed at something, the determination to have rejections, because there was 90 clubs that didn't reply back to me. I was a I won't say intelligent, because I was a good school kid. I was good at school. My father especially made known certain terms that education was important. I was good at school, so having the skills to do the writing was not a problem, because I was good at school. I was made to study at school because I was made it known certain terms that if I didn't do that, then the football was taken away from me. So there's a lesson there for a bit of parenting: find a weak spot and squeeze it. So that's what happened. But I did have even at that time, you have to have discipline to write 92 letters to send away. So I had self-discipline then, but I had confidence in myself that, I'm as good, if not better, than that boy that's gone to play with them, and he's playing with a professional team. Then maybe I should do something about that. And my father put it to me, he said, well, if they're not coming to see you, or they're not seeing you, why don't you make them try and see you? And the way to do that in them days was not emails or WhatsApps or Facebooks. It was pen and paper. So it was up to me. So I either did it or I didn't. So I did.
Exactly. And that's so powerful, though, isn't it? It's that passion, it's that focus, it's that determination. And these are all the skills and traits that business people look for, sports people have. There's that common link. I interviewed Keith Mason for whose sport was rugby. There's a common element there, which is, it's not pie in the sky, it's not bravado. Actually, you put the work in, you know what your strengths are, you know what you're good at, and you deliver. And also it's that, you are very academically capable as well, aren't you? You did love learning, you still love learning, you're very curious about things, and that has got to be helpful as well, hasn't it? I mean, what would you say if we think about the young people, and we know about the problems with mental health and the pressures that young people who are involved in sport are under? I mean, I watched Johnny Wilkinson talk very openly. He said, when he was at the peak of his game, he was at the peak of his unhappiness, because he wasn't looking after his mental health. I mean, what advice would you give to young people who are in sport right now? What would you say could help them, or what things could they be focusing on that would improve their mental health or their love for their sport? Or what do you think?
I think the love for the sport has to be there. I mean, I've read Johnny Wilkinson's book, and I've read books of elite athletes that are world-class Olympic style athletes, and they're all obsessed with the sport. I was obsessed with football. I played football. I watched football every single minute that I could. And a lot of players of sport, rugby, football, tennis, whatever it is, they're like that. So you have that in you. But for the mental health issues, especially with the COVID, because it's very difficult to be isolated. We've all become isolated. But I found that, or my advice would be to speak to people, however you can speak to them. If it's a Zoom call, if it's a WhatsApp call, if it's a video call, you have to speak to people. The suicide rate is something that is just very hard to see, and it must be awful for people. I live in a country at the moment where the tourism has been decimated, absolutely decimated. 60% unemployment rate has gone up in the Algarve because of COVID, and because that's going to affect mental health, that's going to affect families, jobs, feeding your kids. Awful. But if you reach out to somebody, whether it's asking for verbal help, financial help, anything, because if you don't, that's when the problems start, and it festers and can have devastating consequences. So for me, it's speaking about people. But I like speaking to people. I speak to people. I like being social. I like communicating with people. I won't say I was particularly articulate or very good at it, but I like it. I think it's important, and it's shown in the last 12 to 18 months with the stuff that's gone on. Dearie me, I think it's more important than ever that people speak to other people about anything.
That's so true. That's so true. And, we've had some great conversations, haven't we, about, about really looking after yourself, redefining yourself, never just accepting that you're just this one person, that there's always more to you, there's always more to be discovered. And, suicide is a permanent solution to a temporary problem, but actually the more that we can, and you're brilliant with your children, your 4 lovely children, and it's about being able to give them what they need. And you're such a proactive parent, aren't you? You're sort of putting all your skills and abilities back into your children and helping them with their resilience, with their mental health, with their attitude, and you bring that to your coaching as well. So the reality is it's really important. But how did you navigate each of those turning points? So going from full-time professional playing, you're having a family at the same time, moving around the country, moving from Wigan, Barnsley onto Rotherham and Ipswich. How do you navigate that? What are the key skills you need to deploy to be able to move around your career like that?
I think you have to be flexible. Obviously, when I finished playing full-time professional football, I kind of went straight into doing the coaching. So I didn't have a break from football. Whether that's good or bad, I didn't. But luckily, we didn't have to move as a family because we were based in Leeds. But once I took the job at Ipswich, then we did have to leave, and we had to relocate from Leeds to Ipswich. And my wife Charlotte was very good at that. We had Katie at the time, and we'll come on to Katie, who has some difficulties and challenges in her life, and that was a big deal moving down there. But it was kind of you just got to roll with it. You just got to be flexible. If this is something I want to do, Charlotte works as a recruitment consultant, so a business is just relied on a broadband connection and a laptop. You can be in Timbuktu to do that. So it was kind of, well, let's go for it and see what it has. And we had, it was fantastic. Suffolk is, it's a beautiful place to live. Made some lifelong friends there. So I would say, the flexibility to do that, to accept that, okay, we're going to do it. What's the worst that can happen if it doesn't go wrong? Well, we've lost a bit of time, bit of money. You can get those things back. What you can't get back is an opportunity that you didn't take because you're a little bit fearful of it, or a little bit, what's going to happen? Sometimes you just got to jump off and, find out for yourself. And we did, and it was lovely. It was a great time.
And that's so important, isn't it? And is it okay to talk about, some of those additional challenges? Can we talk about Katie and
yeah.
Because that's such a big part of your life, and I've been very privileged to know details around that. Because actually, not everything can be mapped out, and actually, no. as we both talked about, haven't we? That actually having a career in sport is literally very mapped out for you. I mean, let's talk about the extent to which everything is mapped out for you, because then we can talk about how when you have a child with significant needs, how it can just turn everything on its head. So what is it like when you're in professional sport?
Well, it's probably an appropriate word at the moment. It's a bubble. It is a bubble. You know what time training starts. You can roughly guesstimate what time training ends. You know the fixtures. You know what time you have to be at training. You know what time you're going to leave training. You know what days you're training. Your days off are pretty regimented. The fixtures are all mapped out. You travel to an away fixture. You're told what clothes to wear. You're told what time you'll be eating. You're spoon-fed. But you're spoon-fed with the aim and the direction of all you have to worry about is football. All you have to think about is football. So your employers are trying to get you to give your best gainful employment, which is as a footballer, to give your best on the pitch. So there's nothing else to worry about. Well, obviously there is other things to worry about because there's family issues and all those sort of things. But on a practical note, they are trying to literally do everything they can for you, because in some cases now as well, and still back then relatively, they're paying good money for you to produce what you need to on the pitch. So they spoon feed you everything. Now, that's how it can be inside the football bubble. When you come out of that, if you are not adapted or ready to move on with your life, or you don't have life skills, problems, big problems for men and women that are only used to one way of living. If they haven't managed to gain or use any of the life skills that they're going to need when they come out of that bubble, and that's when you see the problems start, both mental health wise, financially. It can happen. So you have to have some sort of, playing football it's a fantastic thing to do if you love football, but it's not real life, Amanda. It's not.
No, and we've talked about that, haven't we? That the reality is you almost can become quite disabled, actually, can't you, as an individual? Because if you don't need to think about, actually, I need to get my kit washed, you know, and I'm bringing it back to really quite basics, you know, then you don't need to think about that stuff. But you do need to think about that stuff when you're no longer in that career, and you know,
Yeah.
And so the reality is, sport, it becomes an obsession. If it wasn't already, it then becomes all about the end result, and that's where the pressures start for people, isn't it? You get injury, actually, I can't contribute in the way that I did before, and then it starts to affect your mindset. So I think,
Yes.
you know, when we talk about the mind-body connection, what you're talking about there is the real life example of that. You know, if the mind is well and the mind is flourishing and constantly curious about how to do things and learning and onboarding, it translates into what our bodies do for us. But actually, if our curiosity gets shut down and we're literally just spoon-fed and told what to do, well, we stop thinking and being, don't we, and stop flourishing. So this is probably an ideal time to talk about your beautiful daughter Katie, and all your beautiful children, by the way. How did that things turn around? How did those things then turn around for you and affect you and your game and your personal life?
Well, I was coming towards the sort of end of my career. We had our first daughter, Georgina, who had a condition called gastroschisis, and she died after 11 days. Now, nobody's going to prepare you for that. Nobody can prepare you for that as a parent. You shouldn't be burying your child. That's just not how it goes. That's not the evolution of it. But it happened. It wasn't expected. You know, the doctors and the surgeons told us that it was a minor operation to be performed. Obviously, it didn't go like that, and we were in the unfortunate 1%. So we had to deal with that. And that's when I was just finished playing football, or just finishing playing football. I went back to play for another year, but obviously for 3-4 months, then, you know, that was some severe mental health issues for myself and my wife. So then a year later, we had Katie, and everything seemed normal from the start, but get to around 9 or 10 months, and she just wasn't hitting the markers. She just wasn't hitting things that she should have been. Charlotte was concerned. I was typical male. Oh, she's all right. She's just a big baby, and she's not, you know, she's not particularly mobile and things like that. But Charlotte, being Charlotte, was no, something's wrong. And at that stage, I wasn't particularly good, actually, either. I think I was suffering probably from still not dealing with grief over my first daughter, second daughter, Charlotte, saying, I think something's wrong. I refused to sort of, not help, but I refused to believe that. I didn't want to believe that. Anyway, as the years went on, it became quite apparent that something wasn't quite right. And we never really had a diagnosis of what is actually wrong with Katie. We had the diagnosis of she's severely autistic with complex needs. So that was obviously something very, very difficult to deal with. You know, why should we as a family, when I think we're quite decent, genuine people, have to suffer the first child losing, and then the second child is not what you expect a child's going to be? It's, you know, that's hard to deal with. We've got over that and got past that now, but that's very, very hard to deal with, especially coming from the bubble, or the what I'd gone previously on in my life had gone pretty well, to be quite honest. And then you get hit with them two hammer blows. You think, oh my days, what is going on here? And that was hard to deal with. Very, very hard to deal with.
And it's testament to the wonderful relationship you and Charlotte have. I'm privileged to know both of you, and you have a real complement in your values, don't you, as a couple, you know, and you're there for each other. And, you know, there's that saying, what doesn't kill you does make you stronger, and you've really been through it, and you've been lucky, as you say, to have some friends that have stood by and been dug deep and supported you. And the reality is, you know, it takes a strong mindset to be able to navigate all of that. And thankfully you have, and you have two other beautiful children. Just recently had a baby, which is wonderful. So, and this is the thing, you know, you're capable, you're confident, and if anything, how do you feel about difficulties in your life? You know, is there anything that wouldn't be insurmountable for you now? Do you feel you could?
No. Amantha, carrying my daughter in a coffin is shows me that I can do anything in my life, because I did that. And after I'd done that, there were some dark places and dark moments, because you don't expect to do that. And I'm talking the coffin's tiny, with because gastroschisis basically is the condition means that my daughter couldn't feed, she couldn't eat anything. So she literally starved. So because of a necrotic bowel. So once you've carried a coffin through into a church like that, in that situation, things get difficult. Obviously, you can have difficult moments after that. You can have difficult, and Jack and Frankie and the children that you have, and people with families, you have moments. I know you've got kids, and you have moments with them. You think, oh my God. But with a bit of patience and with a bit of just thought, you can deal with a lot of things. But by speaking to people as well, that's really helped us, especially in the recent past. We've been introduced to yourself, my wife especially, because obviously people probably should know as well a little bit that this, if somebody would have told me I'd been speaking to somebody like yourself 5 years ago, yeah, all right, I won't be doing that. But that is another thing that you open yourself out to doing, and that helps. But it's not easy. It's not easy to ask people for help. It can be the hardest thing, especially for males of a certain age. It can be very, very difficult to ask for help. But once you do, I can only speak for myself. And if somebody was asking me, I could only speak for myself and say, once I asked for help and once I opened myself up, it got better. Things got better. And they did. And now I've got Jack, we've got Jack, who's an 8-year-old tsunami, full of energy, he's a great kid, speaks 2 languages, trampolining, kickboxing, swimming, active life in Portugal. And we have a 3-month-old baby, Frankie, who's a brilliant baby. And we have Katie coming back with us, which is hence why I'm in the UK at the minute to go back and go back to Portugal to live with us. So it's going to be hard, but it's that's how we like it, and that's how we want it. But you have to embrace it. It's a challenge. You have to embrace challenges, because if you shy away from them, no chance.
Exactly. And so when you think, I mean, it's so wonderful. I love talking to you because you're so matter of fact about it. But I know that has been a journey for you to be like that, and that mindset, which is no, we're just doing it. And Charlotte is exactly the same. You are a power couple in that way. You're the yin to each other's yang. And that lovely relationships that you have with all your children. You talk so passionately about it. It's beautiful. What advice can we offer to people who probably are in a bit of a rut? Because if anything, COVID has put a lot of people in a rut, hasn't it?
Yeah.
About, oh my God, right, this is how it's always going to be. I don't know how I'm going to get out of it. What can we offer to people to say, listen, here's a starting point, and coaching is a great way, isn't it? Because if you can't find the mindset yourself, working with a coach who knows what they're doing, you can cultivate that for yourself, But what would you say would be the starting points for anyone who's watching this going, God, well, I don't even know how I'm going to begin to get out of my stuff.
Yeah, you have to do some research. You have to speak to people. Like you said, your wife or your husband or your brother or your sister or your son. Or you have to speak to people to find out. Because I'd never spoke to somebody like you, never. And Charlotte does some research and finds out, and she says, "Oh, okay, who do you speak to now?" And then I research you. I research other people similar to you, and I look and I think, okay, what's the worst that can happen? Again. What's the worst that can happen? You lose a bit of time, you lose a bit of effort, things that you can get back, things that are not that important really to lose. So I think you do a bit of research into the outside world, whether that be on social media, whether that be books, whether that be self-help lectures, whether that be whatever it is. You have to get out of your comfort zone, because you can sit there and feel sorry for yourself, because I've done it. I've done it. I lost my daughter. I did it. We found out that there's problems with Katie. I did it. Sat there thinking, oh, woe is me, for a short time. But after that, you have to think, come on, you've got people, you've got your wife, you've got other children, you've got friends, you've got family. You need to get out of it. How do you get out of it? You get your backside in gear, and you get out of it. And a lot of people say that to me. Oh, you speak so matter of fact, Andy. Well, it is. Just do it. Don't pontificate about it. I'll do it tomorrow. No, just do it. And then when you've done it, if it hasn't worked, at least you can say, well, I did it. I didn't sit there, pontificate about it, lose another week and a month and a year, because the time is flying so fast, especially with these times when we can be at home with our family and children, and we're not teachers. Home teaching can be, as I've found, it can be stressful, it can be difficult, but in the end, you've got to give yourself a break. We're not teachers, so let your kids teach them some other things. I taught my son how to use the washing machine, which I'm extremely proud of, to be quite honest.
And you know what, it is that, isn't it? You know, our role as parents is to give our children what they need to be able to step into the outside world confidently, and that isn't always going to be found in a book. And and that's really important, isn't it?
Yeah, I got a quick story about when I left home. I left home when I was 17 to go and play at Barnsley. We lived in a 3-bedroom council house. Parents got 1 bedroom. There's me, my sister, my other brother. They're already there. So there's 3 kids already. So there's already 1 child too many in the house. So then my brother arrives, Christopher, and there's not enough bedrooms. So I have to make a decision. What am I going to do? There's no room for me in the house. I have to go and make a life for myself. I make the decision, well, yeah, I've got to go and live in digs in Barnsley. And that was the best thing I could have done, because I was 17. And since then, I should have learned to cook, but I never did. But I can iron, I can clean my own clothes, I can work washing machines, I can work dishwashers, because I had no choice. So I had to do it. And if you make a determined choice to do it, and not have everybody do everything for you, then it'll come out the other end, and you'll be all right. I think the big thing for everybody, especially in these times when we can be very isolated, is to reach out to people, to speak to people and get them to help you. But the most important thing for me at that time, and a lot of the time when I speak to my son, help yourself.
Yeah. I love that. I do. I go back to my old school every year, and I do Face the Future days. And there's very much a focus on, you know, university interviews. You know, it's an amazing school. But what I love about what the head teacher says is, she says we need to boost their confidence. You know, and when I hear young people, when I say, well, what makes you most nervous about going to university? I don't know how to cook. I don't know how to wash my own clothes. I think as parents, we almost protect our children overly.
Yeah.
We don't give them enough life experience. We don't let them see enough, you know, about what is required to be. We use this word resilience, but, you know, resilience is about being able to wash yourself, dress yourself, get yourself out the door. You know, if you didn't have a car to get you there, where's the nearest bus? You know, all of those sorts of things. But, you know, that's not being harsh. You know, you and I are probably of an age where we grew up where, you know, that was just our reality. We didn't have everything accessible to ourselves now. And I do feel for young people right now, because everything is accessible like that. You know, you can ring Uber, you know, you can get your food delivered to your door from your favorite takeaway place. You know, everything is instantly available. But actually, what isn't instantly available to young people is their own skills and ability, their own knowledge of what they're good at. And I think that is something that we as a group, as a community, worldwide community, can do much better for young people. And if you're not able to get that from inside your own family, look outside of your own family. But I think this is the thing. I think the reason we have more issues with mental health, particularly for young people, is because there's more expectation for them to succeed, but they have a lot smaller skill set to do it with. So I think that is really true what you say. And you're great with Jack particularly, aren't you? You know, and with Katie, you sort of really stretch and challenge them, and, you know, and that can be exhausting.
Yeah, my son needs challenges. It's different with Katie, but my son needs challenges. He's an 8-year-old. He's full of questions. He's full of energy. He needs direction, and especially with the homeschooling things as well, which is difficult because I'm doing it in a language that I'm not fluent in. So that is doubly hard, and a language that he is fluent in, which makes it triply hard, because when he decides to tell me he doesn't understand something, and I know he does, then it's negotiations. So, but he needs direction, he needs challenging, and I would say Charlotte would probably tell you I'm quite strict with him with his times of this and times of that. But I think it don't do any harm to be like that, because nobody gives you anything. You know, he's getting to the stage where he's asking, you know, Daddy, you played football and blah 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 and this and this. I said, yeah, but nobody gave me that. That's hard work, Jack. That's hard work. And anybody that says football players, rugby players, tennis players, elite sports people, the work that goes into becoming that, and the mental strength or the mentality of resilience, a word you use, which I particularly like, the level you have to that is off the chart. You have to have that. You have to have that.
And it's like that. It's like that iceberg, isn't it? You know, you only ever see the top 10% to 20% of an iceberg, but what's beneath it is where the strength is. And that's what you're talking about, isn't it? It's all the stuff that you don't see when people, you know, come off the pitch, you know, what they've got to go through to be able to get back on the pitch next time and stick a goal in the back of the net for your team. So you're absolutely right. So I think it's almost we could do with going back to basics a little bit, couldn't we?
Yeah.
Or maybe an era that some of us have lived through, the 60s, the 70s, the 80s, the 90s, which is about, let's get the basics right, because everything else that builds on top of that is going to add to it, isn't it? If we get the right foundations, definitely.
I think so. I think you can teach your kids resilience. I think you can teach them to be resilient. I think you can definitely teach them to be self-sufficient, 100%. Like I said, I made a decision when the homeschooling was going a little bit awry, and I said, okay, I'm going to focus on getting him to help me, to help himself, and to help his mother. So he does help his mother a lot with the baby. With Frankie, he'll help with the bath. He'll help with the washing machine.
Brilliant.
He gathers the clothes up, puts them in the washing basket. Small things, but things that I had to do when I was a kid.
And they boost your self-esteem, don't they? I know if I ask my daughter to do that, she's like, "I've put the washing on for you, mummy. I've hung it out.
Yeah.
Can I make a meal tonight?" And yes, it would always be easy to go, "No, I'll do it because it'd be so much quicker," or whatever. But actually, letting them experience that, and I talk with my daughter openly about, she asked me, "How's your day been?" I say, "I've had a great day," or "I've had a hard day, and here's how I've dealt with a hard day. Here's how I'm going to celebrate a good day." I think sometimes we can be, too protective of our children for them to see our own resilience, our own vulnerability. And I would encourage people to do more of that, because that's where children really, really, really learn. So
I think there's a for me, I've good debates and good conversations about this. There's a real quandary about I grew up in a place that wasn't affluent. It wasn't, it was a council estate in Leeds, and we lived in a council house, so we didn't want for anything. But it wasn't easy for my mother and father. It was hard. And now we live in Portugal. We live in a nice villa. The sun shines a lot, and my son has a nice life. But how nice do you make it for them? Because you can make it too nice. This is only my opinion. You can make it too nice, and as you and I know, Mantha, not everything in life is nice. Not everything works out. You have to build up some resilience to emotional and physical episodes, or what happens to your life. You have to build up some resilience, and giving your kids too much is I think it's every parent's quandary, to be honest, that goes through things like that. Some parents are less fortunate; they don't have financial gifts to bestow on their kids and things like that. It's not as easy for them, and I understand that. But for people that have maybe come away from that and don't live where they used to live, and they strive to be better, real quandary how you deal with your kids, and that a real quandary for that.
It is, and what I often say when I'm coaching clients, because as you know, we talk about the whole person. We don't just talk about business. We don't just talk about relationships. We talk about the whole person. We can always give our time, can't we? And I think when I do coach young people, they consistently say, "I don't care how much time I get. I just want to feel like I am the most important person in that moment." So I would say to people watching this, if you're going to give 5 minutes to your child, 5 minutes of totally 100% focus on them is better than 5 hours of distracted attention. And so with that, we can give ourselves a bit of a break about it, because working from home has been a nightmare for so many people. And those quandaries of how's it going to look, the kids are just coming in, or the kids are creating out there, or being able to say, "I'm going to do this, and then I'm giving you 5 minutes of my time. What do you want to do with that 5 minutes? Because I'm going to give you 50 minutes later." It's just about how we approach it, and dialing down some of our own insecurities and anxieties, and going, it is what it is. So I love that advice, Andrew, and I think you do really live and breathe that. You're authentic about that, and that's, I think, quite unusual. But you're very open with, it's a challenge today, or it's not a challenge today, or it's just going great, and you're very appreciative of where you've come from. But you also do recognise, and I love that, it didn't come without blood, sweat, and tears.
No, not at all. No,
and a determination, and those are great things to instill in young people. Tell me, in your opinion, what do young people need more of today?
Resilience.
What do they need less of?
On a quick fire, I would say, what do they need less of? Social media.
Okay. Definitely, I would agree with you 100%. because I think social media is too much about comparison, and it's not about appreciation of who you are. And you're only running your own race, really, at the end of the day, because we all look back over our lives and go, why was I so worried about everybody else? It's important to run your own race. So as we start to bring our interview to a close, obviously it's been an interesting week in football this week. Any opinions on that you want to share?
I mean, I'm at the moment I'm not involved in football, so I can take a step back from it and I can say whatever I like, and it's just people that own football clubs. This is how I would put it: people that own football clubs that don't know football is the simplest way I can put it. The people, the billionaires or the gazillionaires or whatever they are, that own football that don't know football. Then you have consequences, as you've seen this week. And by the way, that's not the end of it. The consequences will keep going and going and going. They don't know football, and that's the simplest way I can put it. They just don't.
It's a bit like getting me to fix your car if it's broken. There's going to be problems. I've got bucket loads of enthusiasm. I probably would, I've got, a ton of creativity, but I'm probably not going to fix your car, am I? No. And it is that, isn't it? It's about the values, which we talk about a lot, don't we, Andrew?
Yeah.
It's about your values. And when you come back down to it, do we have the values with the people who are holding the purse strings? And
it's something, and I understand why they've done it, because I watch a lot of sport, as my wife would probably tell you too much. I watch a lot of professional sport because I'm interested in it.
Yeah.
And the American football model, where they have the trades and they have no relegation and things like that, I understand why they want it. They want to protect the business. They want to guarantee income. Well, I'm afraid that professional football in England does not exist like that. It does not. Somebody wins, somebody loses. If you lose, you get relegated. That's how it is. If you try to change that, you're going to have a problem, as the mainly American-backed owners, as they found. You can't do that. And like I said, it's people involved in football that don't know football, and that's a dangerous thing. It's somebody coming to be involved in your business, Samantha, that knows nothing about your business and tries to take it over.
Ain't going to happen, Andrew.
No.
But this is the thing, isn't it? Because the fans are being robbed of that, the people that are paying it. Do you think it's a reaction to what's happened due to COVID? Do you think this was always going to come?
No, this is always going to come. This is always going to come. The big clubs think they're big clubs. And by the way, two of the big clubs, which I won't say because people get upset, are not big clubs. They think they are, but they're not. So, but it's always going to come. Something will happen in the future. Something will, they want, what they want to do is protect their businesses' incomes. I can guarantee you, without knowing, I can guarantee you that when they bought the clubs, they would have relegation. You mean my team can get relegated, but I'll lose 200 million. These guys own American sports franchises. They don't lose that income. They don't get relegated. They don't understand the word. They hate the word, because to them that means they lose money. Well, I'm afraid that fans in England never happen. Never, ever happen. And that's what they don't understand. They don't understand football.
And that's the thing. We've come full circle in our conversation, haven't we? Because sport, in the main, certainly in this country, is about passion. It's about purpose. It's about living your values, aligning with your team, signing up to something, being loyal to something and believing in it. And yet it goes against all of that, doesn't it, really? Do you see a time where the English fans will step away from football?
If that would have happened, yes. If that would have happened. I don't think it ever would have happened, but never say never. If that would have happened, yes, I can see them stepping away from football. And you can see now, if we're going back to the football business, you can see now what's happening now with no fans is not football, Samantha. That is not professional football. It isn't. I can tell you that right now. It is not. It has in no shape, way or form anything to do with professional football, what is happening now, because there's no fans. The only reason it's carrying on is for one reason, and that's financial.
Yeah. So we've lost sight of the thing that's most important, really. And And so, you know, connection is important, isn't it? So,
Yeah.
so tell me, as we bring this wonderful into it, it's so lovely to talk to you. I love talking to you. What does the future hold for you, Charlotte, your lovely family, Portugal? Tell me what you're thinking.
I hope it holds many memories that we can make, many enjoyable moments in life. Now, I was obviously employed as a professional fitness coach for Republic of Ireland. That finished. I am at the moment, I'm a full-time house husband, father, however you want to say it, and it's toughest job I've ever had. But no, it's since my daughter was born. Frankie was born 3 months ago, so I spent a lot of time at home. My wife has a recruitment consultancy business that's going very well. She just needs a broadband and a laptop. So I find myself spending a lot of time at home, and I've really enjoyed it. I've enjoyed spending the time in a new place. We've got been very busy. New baby, Katie coming back to us, new house, lots of other things going on. Jack obviously being a constant, always trying to homeschooling and things like that. But I would say I've been at home for 3 months, and I have really enjoyed it. I've really enjoyed it because it's different. It's something different. It's for a lot of times in my life I've been not selfish, I wouldn't say, but with a purpose of being a professional footballer. You have to be selfish at some point because you have to take care of yourself. You have to take care of your life. You have to take care of your health, and you have to be selfish to some degree. But when you start having a family and when you start getting older, when you start getting more experiences, you have to give that up. That selfishness has to go. And I've really enjoyed it. I have really enjoyed it. I'm not sure Charlotte would say the same, and I'm at home all the time, but you'd have to ask her that. But I have really enjoyed it. So I think the future holds more of that for me. I hope that Charlotte's business will continue to do well. I hope that my Portuguese will start getting better. It's not bad, but I'd like to see that get better. And then just as a whole, as a family, we really, still enjoy living in Portugal because we love living in Portugal. It's an outdoor life, the people, the weather. There's no downside to it. There's just literally no downside to it. It took a lot of effort to do it, which is another thing, another conversation, the resilience of moving abroad to a different country where you don't speak the language. Yeah, and you don't speak the language. But that's a different conversation. But I hope that it brings us all that, and I hope that we'll continue to enjoy being a family, really, because it's with COVID not easy for anybody. So I'm hoping that everything comes better through that, and that we all can continue to get out and meet people again, because it's very important, the social interaction.
Well, I'm going to sort of extend my own invite, because it'd be lovely to do another interview with you poolside at your place in Portugal. So if you ever fancy doing a part 2, Andrew, no problem. Just let me know once COVID is done. But I have absolutely no doubt about that. And I think what's lovely and humbling for a lot of people is being a parent is a culmination of all that you've brought through your life. It's not something that we should actually downplay. Being a parent, we're raising the next generation, and if we can put our time and our passion and all our learnings into our children and be curious about them, which you absolutely are, we will have done a good job with that. So from me to you, I wish you well. I know that we're going to have another chapter and another chapter after that. So I love speaking to you. Please send my love to Charlotte as well, and hugs and kisses to the children. And thank you so much for sharing some of yourself in a way that I absolutely know will inspire people. So before we finish, tell me, how can people be in touch with you if they do want to be in touch with you? You're on LinkedIn, aren't you?
Yes, I am on LinkedIn. Yes, I have a
so
LinkedIn
I will share
page.
that.
Just search for me, Andrew Liddell. Yeah, and I mean, if people want to contact me through there, that's absolutely no problem. And then I can email or message through. That's absolutely no problem at all. Yeah, lovely. Absolutely no problem.
Lovely. So thank you so much for being an inspiring guest. And
no problem. Thank you for
enjoy your
inviting
me. In isolation in the UK, and have a safe journey back to Portugal.
I will do.
With
I think I need to go and buy a coat though. I don't own a coat, Amanda, so I need to go and get a coat because
it's sunny. It's sunny, but it's cold. Okay. Thanks so much then, Andrew.
Thank you.